The practice of blood sorcery allows the vampire to twist their own blood and the blood of others into submission. Without blood sorcery, the blood inside a vampire is merely a fuel to keep them going. With blood sorcery, it can become a weapon to be wielded, or, when focused on another creature, a weakness to be exploited. Greetings, kindred. I am Voivode Maquette, and welcome back to our World of Darkness. And tonight we're going to be going over some of Mind's Eye Theater's Vampire the Masquerade Laws of the Night, specifically the disciplines. This is a level by level, where we will be going through each individual level of a discipline power that can be found for vampires in World of Darkness games, specifically for live action roleplay, for LARP. Now, these can get a little bit confusing and long-winded. Therefore, I have provided time codes in the description below so that you can fast track to the information you need for each individual discipline. With that, let's go ahead and get started with the general information that you all need for using disciplines using the Laws of the Night system. When a mortal is embraced and becomes a vampire, they have innate supernatural powers called disciplines. When a vampire feeds on human blood, they learn to refine and temper the resonance of the victims to unlock terrifying and devastating powers of the blood. These powers range from supernatural strength, speed, and resiliency to the ability to subjugate the minds or cloud the perception of enemies and others. Disciplines are rated on a scale from 1 to 5 dots. After character creation, a character must purchase additional dots with XP. Each unique discipline has the following general characteristics. Type. Are the discipline powers mental, social, or physical? Masquerade risk. How dangerous to the masquerade is using a majority of this discipline's powers? Blood resonance. What type of blood must be consumed to learn this discipline? Each power within a discipline has a cost, usually a simple or standard action, or a number of required rouse checks. Each discipline power also has a listed duration. Learning disciplines. Learning a dot from an in-clan discipline requires a downtime action from the vampire, as they find and feed upon a mortal with the correct blood resonance of that discipline. If a vampire seeks to learn a discipline that's not an in-clan, she must drink 1 rouse check's worth of blood from a vampire who possesses that discipline, in or out of clan at any level. She must then spend a downtime action feeding upon a mortal with the correct blood resonance for that discipline. This process must be repeated each time she wishes to learn a dot of an out-of-clan discipline. Learning Oblivion or Blood Sorcery as an out-of-clan discipline is the exception to that rule. In addition to those requirements, the learning vampire must be willingly taught by a vampire who possesses Oblivion or Blood Sorcery as an in-clan discipline. This requires a downtime action to be spent by both the learner and the instructor. Thin blood vampires must possess the vampiric discipline merit prior to learning 1 selected discipline. Selecting powers. Every time a character gains a dot in a discipline, they must choose 1 power from that discipline list. The power chosen must be equal to or less than the new level of dots she possesses in that discipline. Note that choosing a lower level power does not provide a discount on the discipline dot purchase. For example, a Brujah who started the game without any potence wants to learn both Prowess and Soaring Leap from Potence. They purchase Soaring Leap with their first dots for 5 XP, and Prowess with their second dots for 10 XP. requiring a total of 15 XP. Amalgams. Amalgam powers are special powers that require proficiency in more than one discipline. They may be selected instead of standard discipline powers when you purchase a new discipline dot. In order to select an amalgam power, you must also possess the listed number of dots in the prerequisite discipline. Amalgam powers count as belonging to both disciplines for all purposes. Also, as a side note, any amalgam can be purchased by any clan. Unless otherwise stated, the only prerequisite for purchasing an amalgam is having the number of dots in the secondary discipline listed and the experience points to purchase it. Using disciplines. The following rules apply to all discipline use, unless otherwise stated. A discipline power can be used on the same target on subsequent turns, even if the first attempt failed. Multiple instances of the same discipline power do not stack. If a power has a duration and is used multiple times on the same target, the duration resets and begins again, instead of having more time added. Any discipline that has an action cost to activate lasts for 1 hour. A character must be able to see a target clearly to use the power on that target. Line of sight can be enhanced by sensory-based powers, such as heightened senses, but may not be enhanced by technological assistance, such as video cameras. To establish line of sight, the target must be observed with the vampire's own senses. Any power can be ended if the user spends a simple action. Discipline mechanics are written from the point of view of a vampire user. However, if legally possessed by another creature type, consider vampire-specific terms to apply to that user. Partially supernatural creatures, such as ghouls, are considered mortal. If a power has a greater effect on mortals, it will also have a greater effect on ghouls. Other rules and limitations specific to a discipline are listed in the characteristics section of each discipline. A number of discipline powers refer to situational modifiers such as relenting, wound penalties, conditions, and line of sight. For more information and explanation for those terms, see Core Rules Systems on page 83 of Laws of the Night. Combat turn duration. Unless otherwise stated, a power that lasts for multiple turns in combat expires on the same initiative count as initiated, regardless of whether the character who initiated the power is still alive or if their initiative has changed. Gaze and focus. Some disciplines require the target to focus their attention on the user of the power. These powers do not require eye contact, but do require having the attention of the individual you wish to control. Individuals may attempt to find ways to avoid making eye contact, but the powers of the blood are not so easily thwarted. Gaze and focus only requires having the attention of the individual you wish to target. Anyone whose attention is on you is a viable target for powers that require gaze and focus. This includes the following individuals: those who are looking into your eyes, those holding an in-person conversation, not over the phone or video chat with you, those who have physically attacked you or used a mental or social power on you, regardless of the success of such attacks. Gaze and focus gained this way lasts for the remainder of the scene or combat scenario. It is possible for a single person to focus on 2 or more individuals. If supernatural powers are used to make you pay attention to 2 characters at the same time, you might glance back and forth between the 2, or move to a place where you can see both simultaneously. You are also capable of holding the gaze and focus of multiple parties. Transformative powers. Any power that significantly alters a character's physical shape is considered a transformative power. Each of these powers explicitly states that it is transformative. Unless otherwise stated, transformative powers have the following characteristics. Transformative powers last until dawn, or until the user sleeps, is subject to the helpless condition, falls unconscious, or falls into torpor. The user may also spend a simple action to end the transformation early. A character may only use and benefit from one transformative power at a time. If a character attempts to use a transformative power while already being affected by another, the first ends immediately, and the second activates. Transformative powers do not prevent you from using non-transformative powers as long as your current form can reasonably fulfill the requirements of a non-transformative power. When you activate a transformative power, clothing and small personal items disappear. These return when you regain your normal form. A character cannot use physical weapons, guns, swords, etc., while transformed. Conditions are not resolved, nor are wounds and injuries mended or altered when a character utilizes a transformative power. A character with one eye has one fewer eyes in all forms. Obscured characters and out-of-body powers. Some powers allow you to separate your consciousness or senses from your physical body, or to hide your physical form. When extending your consciousness or senses beyond the limits of your physical body, you may do so only as far as the boundaries of your game, or 75 miles, whichever is lower. Whenever you are obscured from mundane observation, or separating your consciousness or senses from your body, hold a closed fist against your shoulder. This signifies you, the player, are not physically present as your character. This gesture should not be used as justification for other players to attempt to detect your presence with supernatural powers. Your storyteller should also be alerted to the location of your actual physical form. If you are able to perceive multiple locations at once, use an assisting storyteller to observe and report from one location. You may also rely on other characters in the scene to relay what happened while you chose to concentrate on one location. Use of such powers does not mean that the other players must pause roleplay while you move back and forth between multiple scenes. Mortals. Some powers have differing effects when targeting mortals. Ghouls and thin-blood vampires without the vampiric resiliency merit are considered mortals for the purpose of discipline effects against them. Fully supernatural creatures such as changelings, mage, and werewolves are not considered mortals. I understand that there is a lot of information to take into that, and what I've stated there are the verbatim, word for word, taken from the book, examples of the general rules for utilizing disciplines when playing in a LARP setting. I hope that was helpful for you, but let's go ahead and move on to the discipline in question. Greetings, Kindred. I'd like to take a moment out of our games to have a serious conversation. Don't worry, we'll get back to the world of darkness in just a moment. Today, the day that this video goes live, December 1st, is World AIDS Day, and I'm joining with Health Plus Indiana and AIDS Ministries AIDS Assist to help destigmatize talking about this. On screen right now, there are two QR codes. This one leads you to together.takemehome.org and will get you a free HIV test that you can do in the privacy of your own home. I've done a video where I did one of these tests on screen, showing everyone how easy and non-invasive they are. Link in the description if you want a step-by-step walkthrough on how to do this test. The second takes you to where you can donate to the AIDS Ministries to help them keep providing these amazing services for those in need. It really is a good cause. And I hope that both of these QR codes get a lot of love from the near 3,000 people on this channel. Help reduce the stigma of even talking about our health. And thank you to Health Plus Indiana and the AIDS Ministries AIDS Assist for all that you do and reaching out to me to be a part of it. So tonight, Kindred, we are going over Blood Sorcery. I personally love this discipline, the way that it works in the 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade. Back in nights long past, we used to have to... we had a very expansive use of blood sorcery, or what was called thaumaturgy back in the day. And I know a lot of people still miss that. They miss the paths. But I can say, not only as a storyteller, but also as a player, I actually enjoy the pared down blood sorcery a little bit better. It fits, I should say that. It fits in the world of darkness, in Vampire the Masquerade, so much better than the mass expanse of all of the different things that blood sorcery used to have. Now, that being said, I think that might actually be, in my opinion, the reason why I like this so much better is because of the way that it was run by a lot of storytellers and the way that it was practiced by a lot of players. There were a lot of rules and hoops that were meant to be jumped through that, in my experience as a player, storytellers didn't really prioritize. And as a storyteller, when I ran Tremere and other clans that practiced thaumaturgy, they were upset when I attempted to run it the way that it was said in the books. So, again, let's just keep an open mind for a discipline that has changed quite a bit since earlier incarnations. And let's go ahead and take a look at the basic characteristics of what blood sorcery is in 5th edition Vampire the Masquerade, specifically in the Mind's Eye Theater version found in Laws of the Night. Purchasing blood sorcery unlocks the ability to purchase and perform rituals, up to and including the level of the user possesses in blood sorcery. So what that means is if you have level 3 in blood sorcery, any of the two or any of the options for blood sorcery, that means that you can buy rituals up to level 3. That means that you can buy all the level 1s, all the level 2s, all the level 3s. There is no restraint other than what your XP has to offer when purchasing rituals. At character creation, if a player possesses at least 1 dot in blood sorcery after assigning their initial disciplines, they also receive 1 level 1 ritual for free. Now, you do not get a free ritual per level of blood sorcery, but that first ritual at character creation comes in for free. Characters can then purchase new rituals at the cost of the ritual's level times 3 XP. So again, if you're buying a level 3, it's going to be times 3, it's going to be 9 points. The only limitations on how many rituals a character may possess are their XP and the time necessary to learn. Learning a new blood sorcery ritual requires 1 downtime to research and study. Now, we will be going over blood sorcery rituals in their own video because there are so many of them. I do not want this video to end up being like so freaking long. Now, types. What type of discipline do you think that blood sorcery would be? It is mental. You are using your mental powers, except for Scorpion's Touch and Baal's Caress, which again we will cover further on in this video, which are actually considered physical, due to the fact that they do take physical contact to be able to enact. What is the Masquerade threat level? It's low to high. Blood sorcery can be extremely subtle or obvious when it comes to Masquerade issues. The powers with a visual aspect shatter the Masquerade, as you cannot really explain blood floating through the air or concrete dissolving at someone's touch. Other blood sorcery powers have no actual effect visibly and can be explained away as personality peculiarities, such as talking to inanimate objects and things like that. What blood resonance do you think we would be looking at when it comes to blood sorcery? Sanguine. Imaginative, fanciful mortals, such as cultists, occultists, conspiracy theorists, and even aroused partygoers often have sanguine resonances. So in other words, the same thing that would kick in high gear for the presence discipline is also going to be something that you want to drink from if you are practicing blood sorcery. So now that that is all out of the way, let's go ahead and get into the nitty-gritty and check out blood sorcery level by level. Level 1, a taste for blood. You have honed your tastes to be able to pinpoint various tiny differences between one blood and another. With this power, a small taste of blood provides a valuable source of information on top of everything else. So here we are talking about taste for blood, which, in my opinion, is kind of one of the quintessential powers when it comes to blood sorcery. This discipline screams Clan Tremere, because it has a lot to do with being able to gain information by divining what secrets are within the blood. This is a free discipline. The cost is nothing. There is no rouse check. There is no anything like that. The system states, by ingesting a small amount of a target's blood and spending a simple action, you can find out all of the following information. Medical information, such as blood type and state of health. How much blood is currently in the subject's system. What blood resonance they have. And, if applicable, if they are suffering from a dyscrasia and which one. What type of creature the blood came from. If the creature is not a mortal, a ghoul, or a vampire, the storyteller may require a lore challenge to identify exact creature type. If the subject is a vampire, you may also determine the subject's generation, whether the subject has ever committed diablerie, and how recently the subject has fed. A taste for blood requires you to physically ingest blood that you test. So it's just a drop. This power can be dangerous if the blood is tainted with disease or other effects. Now, fortunately, the magical nature of this power shields you from being bound by the blood ingested when activating this power. Ingesting a drop of the target's blood does not slake your hunger either, nor does it increase the hunger from the vampire target. However, it may trigger a hunger frenzy because of the sight, smell, and taste of blood. For more information on that, you really do need to go over in the standard pocket guide, this book right here, page 107, which will go over frenzy details. Now, the duration for this discipline is also not very applicable. This is the kind of thing where it's just a one and done. It's not really a turn. It's not really an anything. It's literally, I'm dipping my finger in this, I'm touching it to the tip of my tongue, and now all of that information that is applicable goes to your character. It's incredibly useful, and it's one of those things that I kind of see overlooked in place of Corrosive Vitae, now that that is available to Tremere. Kind of sad. I personally am a taste for blood fan when it comes to the way that these discipline works, and as far as like the Tremere go, although I know the Tremere are not the only clans that have access to this discipline now, it's still the way that I would tend to take it, is more the inquisitive, it's time to learn things about your target power. Level 1, Corrosive Vitae. You have learned to manipulate the chemicals and magic within your blood, which you can turn into an acid-like substance once it exits your body. So now we are going on to Corrosive Vitae. For those of you who have been fans of Vampire the Masquerade well before 5th edition, you would know this as a power that is pretty common among the Banu Hakim, or Assamites as they were known back in the day. This is an example of the fact that Quietus, the old Assamite clan-specific discipline, has now been turned into what blood sorcery can be. Now, in my own personal headcanon, I always say that this is more reason for the Banu Hakim to hate the Tremere, because they've stolen a discipline. But really, one of the big reasons behind this is because they have tried to make it so that all of the disciplines that are listed are disciplines that Cain discovered in the Book of Nod. This is just more evidence of the Nod story being true, although there are quite a few vampire origin stories, and the Book of Nod is not the only thing that we need to go into. So, this discipline costs 1 rouse check, so you do have to rouse the blood to get this discipline to go. The system states, make 1 rouse check to force your blood to sweat through the palm of your hand. You may spend your standard action smearing your corrosive vitae on an object, causing it to corrode and decompose to the point of uselessness. If you wish to corrode an item on another character's person, such as a weapon or armor, you need to reach out and touch the item with a dexterity plus brawl versus a dexterity plus athletics opposed challenge to the person holding that item. Objects larger than a standard door require more than 1 application of Corrosive Vitae to fully destroy. This power has no effect on living or undead matter, but it can rot dead bodies until they are unrecognizable. The duration for this power is 1 turn. So for the course of a turn, this power allows you to transmute your blood into a massively acidic compound that can melt through doors, destroy weaponry, and pretty much anything that you, the other player, and the storyteller can agree on could possibly happen. Now, you do have to be aware of how long it might take for acid to eat through specific objects. Obviously, something that's metal is going to become pitted and maybe messed up, but it is going to take a while for it to actually burn through, and like being able to escape a dungeon with a steel door or something like that could take some time, and possibly multiple applications of Corrosive Vitae for it to be able to work. This power has proven to be very fun in games that I have run in the recent past, and it is a welcome addition to Vampire the Masquerade's blood sorcery, at least in my opinion. Another thing that I see good with this is if a character such as a Tzimisce got a hold of this. This would be a nice representation of Blood of Acid, or Acid Blood, which was an Elder level vicissitude power from earlier editions. Level 2, Blood Rash. The effort to rouse the blood is as natural for a vampire as breathing is for a mortal. When inflicted with this blood sorcery curse, rousing the blood causes the victim to become agitated as she feels the blood growing hotter as it flows through her veins uncomfortably. Blood Rash is actually one of the very first uses of blood sorcery I ever used in a live action game for 5th edition. I attended the San Antonio Darkness Emergent event, where the character that I got to play for the Canada at Midnight group was a Tremere, and Blood Rash is very, very fun to use. The cost is a single rouse check. The dice pool is intelligence plus occult versus the wits plus resolve of a subject. And the system states, make 1 rouse check and expend a standard action as you gesture obviously at the target vampire. On a successful challenge, your target finds that rousing their blood brings them discomfort and physical irritation. For the next 2 turns, anytime the target rouses the blood, their skin becomes unnaturally and noticeably flush, and they gain the distracted condition. Now, the duration for this is 2 turns, but I want to point out something very interesting about Blood Rash, and that this is a vampire on vampire specific discipline. It causes an effect if your target rouses the blood. So, this is one of those niche things that really has kind of a vampire on vampire feel to it. I'm not sure how you guys feel about this. I kind of wish there were more thoughts on what you might be able to do with this on a human, or even possibly when you're fighting a guru. But it's a combat discipline. It's not really something that comes up much in my games, because my games don't typically run to combat right away. But it is still a very interesting power to use, and it does come in useful when you are fighting other kindred. Level 2, Extinguish Vitae. You are able to exert your will over another vampire's blood, diminishing their capability to mend damage. This is another one that is vampire on vampire, Extinguish Vitae. It is, however, very, very fun to use in combat. The cost is 1 rouse check, and the challenge pool is intelligence plus occult versus the stamina plus composure of the target. The system states to make 1 rouse check and expend your standard action as you gesture, obviously, at the target vampire. I love that a lot of these blood sorcery powers have the gesture, obviously, at the target vampire. It just kind of makes me want to go like this at them. On a successful challenge, your target finds it harder to mend damage by rousing the blood. If your target is a blood potency of 1 or less, they must make an additional rouse check, 2 total, to mend damage. If your target is blood potency 2 or higher, they mend 1 less damage when they mend damage. So in other words, if their blood potency would allow them to mend more than 1 at a time, it cuts them down to 1. Extinguish Vitae lasts for 2 turns, and use of this power does not give you in-character knowledge of the character's blood potency. So this is something that the player character of the target does have to be honest about, and something that storytellers probably should keep in mind, because this might just be something that goes over the person's head. So be aware of what's going on inside your games. Again, the duration for this power is 2 turns. Level 3, Blood of Potency. You have figured out how to concentrate your own blood, granting you the benefit and drawbacks of having more formidable blood for a short time. Blood of Potency is one of those things from old Path of Blood thaumaturgy that has made its way back in, but due to the fact that generation and blood potency have effectively changed meanings in this edition of Vampire the Masquerade, there are some differences. The cost is 1 rouse check, and the challenge pool is Resolve plus Occult versus a difficulty of 2 plus your blood potency. It's a static challenge. The system states make 1 rouse check and spend a simple action to make a static challenge using your Resolve plus Occult versus a difficulty of 2 plus your blood potency. If you win, the blood potency increases by 2 for the duration of this power. Otherwise, the blood potency increases by 1. You may exceed your generation limits of blood potency by the use of this power. If your temporary blood potency increases past 5, you do have to consult the following table, which I will put on the screen right now. Feeding penalties at blood potency 6 and 7 are the same as at blood potency 5. If you are diablerized during this time, or you embrace a child, Your true blood potency is used to determine the results of those actions. Duration 30 minutes. So for a half an hour, you can make your blood potency go up. And this is what I mean by there are some changes. In older editions, it literally just dropped your generation, making you more potent. But now that 5th edition acknowledges the concept of blood potency as a separate, although congruent, mechanic to generation. There are more steps to go through, and this can really help considering the benefits that having a higher blood potency can give you. Level 3, Scorpion's Touch. When you activate this power, your blood becomes a powerful poison that debilitates your prey and undermines the power of other predators. So here we go. This is another discipline that was once Quietus and is now Blood Sorcery. So typically, your Tremere and your Banu Hakim have access to this, and it does make a very, very terrifying weapon. The cost for this discipline is 1 rouse check, and the challenge pool is Dexterity plus Marksmanship versus Dexterity plus Athletics. And I think that is very interesting, the fact that it's Dexterity plus Marksmanship for this Blood Sorcery power. This is that example of it being a physical discipline and not a mental discipline. The system states, make 1 rouse check and transmute some of your blood into a paralyzing poison. Each rouse check produces enough poison to coat a bladed weapon, or to fill your mouth enough to spit at a target. Coating a weapon costs a simple action and requires you to draw a blade across your skin, dealing no applicable damage, or to lick it with your tongue. Weapons remain coated for 1 scene before the poison becomes inert. Spitting your poison at the target requires a standard action and a successful contested challenge. Individuals struck by your poison spit or a weapon coated with Scorpion's Touch suffer the weakened condition for 3 turns. The additional successful strikes resetting this duration. Mortals struck by poison from Scorpion's Touch suffer an impaired condition instead. Finally, anyone trying to feed directly from you, not including powers such as Theft of Vitae, during a scene in which you scorpionated your blood, immediately gain the weakened condition for 3 turns. Gotta say, I love the word scorpionated. You are immune to your own Scorpion's Touch, but other individuals wielding weapons coated with your venom risk being poisoned. If someone else fails a melee challenge to strike a target with a weapon coated with your Scorpion Touch, she gains the weakened condition or impaired if a mortal character. If the wielder repeatedly loses challenges in this way, they suffer the same extended penalty duration as someone who is struck multiple times. Scorpion's Touch may only be used on bladed weapons, used with the melee skill. Throwing weapons with Scorpion's Touch causes the poison to fall off of the weapon. Scorpion's Touch cannot be used to modify bullets or other ranged equipment, including arrows, as the heat or speed of a projectile destroys the blood coating on the projectile fired. Duration 1 scene, or not applicable if used as a projectile. So I want to clear that up because there's a lot of stuff going on here. First off, where it says that the pool for this is Dexterity plus Marksmanship versus Dexterity plus Athletics, the Dexterity plus Marksmanship would be if you are spitting it at someone. If you are coating a weapon, which again I want to point out, you drag across your skin, it does not give you any actual damage. It's like a minor cut, the blood wells up, it gets on the blade, blah blah blah. At that point it would be a Dexterity plus Melee challenge. So there are some details on this that really do need to be thought about. It depends how you are using Scorpion's Touch for it to affect people in specific ways in which challenge pools you should be using. Level 4. Theft of Vitae. With this power, you can control the blood of flow from another to yourself, inflicting the kiss from a distance, and directing the blood as it arcs through the air directly to you. Theft of Vitae is blood sorcery. If you stop and think about it, most players are going to identify blood sorcery with 3 specific powers, in my opinion. I could obviously be wrong at this, but Taste of Blood, Theft of Vitae, and Cauldron of Blood are the big 3 when it comes to why you don't mess with Clan Tremere. Now, the Banu Hakim have this too, but still, these powers are really what call Vampire Wizard to mind for me. And we've all seen Theft of Vitae when it comes to other sources of vampire pop culture. Look at the Blood Omen or Legacy of Kain series when it comes to like when a vampire can do these kind of things. This power, however, has changed a lot in the 5th edition. I've always described this as a very nasty power, but like even in the description it says that you can inflict the kiss from a distance. Let's go into more details on that because maybe the system describes it a little bit differently. The cost for this power is 1 rouse check. The challenge pool is wits plus occult versus wits plus occult. This is a dangerous discipline due to the fact that most targets, unless you're targeting another wizard for some reason, are not going to have high occult scores. So a lot of the times this might just be against the wits of the target. The system states, make 1 rouse check. Use your standard action to make a beckoning gesture towards a target character within 25 steps of you, and make an opposed challenge. If you succeed and your target is not a vampire, you can slake 2 hunger. Every turn you concentrate as if you were feeding with a harmful drink. So that does not sound like the kiss to me. The kiss to me has always been you are able to like not feel the pain. But let's go a little bit deeper into it. While concentrating, you may take no other action other than movement and must keep your target in line of sight. This blood bursts from one of the major arteries of the victim, soaring through the air and into your mouth and fangs. Blood stolen in this fashion has all the normal properties such as resonance and dyscrasias. This rather unsettling power is obviously supernatural while in progress. However, the victim experiences the throes of the kiss, and once finished the wounds close, leaving no evidence. That confuses the hell out of me because it talks about how like a major artery bursts and all this stuff, but it's magic. You can get away with describing a lot of stuff when it comes to blood sorcery. When Theft of Vitae is used on a vampire, the user slakes 1 hunger and the target increases by 1 hunger. The duration is non-applicable because basically it's while you're doing it, so it's the turn. I do have to say that there is one thing that the developers of this book, this Laws of the Night, Vampire the Masquerade, Mind's Eye Theater book, had was when Theft of Vitae is used on another vampire. One of the things that I really could not stand about the way that some of the things are written in the tabletop book is the fact that Theft of Vitae says that it does not work on vampires. It's called Theft of Vitae. Vampires have called their blood Vitae for the longest time. Theft of blood would be from humans. I understand what Vitae means. I do. But in the common lexicon for Vampire the Masquerade, Vitae is vampire blood. That's all the complaining I'm going to do about it. The discipline is actually really, really kick-ass, and I thank the developers for adding something about using it on other vampires. Level 4. Slow the beating heart. With this power, you are able to slow a target's heartbeat and blood flow. While this won't kill anyone on its own, it sends mortals into a coma-like sleep as their body adjusts to the sudden lack of resources. Slow the Beating Heart, I do have to say, is probably one of my new favorite Blood Sorcery powers. It really, really is. I got to use this. It was a lot of fun, and it actually helped us out with covering the Masquerade. Again, that same thing that I did, that same situation where I got to play in the San Antonio, got to play a Tremere. I got to use this. It was a lot of fun. It cost 1 rouse check to use, and the challenge pool is Resolve plus Medicine versus Stamina plus Composure. The system states, you have mastered the manipulation of blood to the point where you can rob lesser beings of wakefulness. Make 1 rouse check and spend your standard action to make an opposed challenge against the highest stamina plus composure score of any animal or non-supernatural mortal in the same room, no larger than 250 square feet as you. If used outdoors or in a larger room, test against the highest score from the 10 closest animals and non-supernatural mortals. If successfully used in a room smaller than 250 square feet, all other animals and non-supernatural mortals have their blood flow slowed, putting them in a temporary coma, gaining the helpless condition. If used outside or in a larger room, it affects the 10 closest animals or non-supernatural mortals. If undisturbed, they will remain this way for 10 minutes. After this time has passed, the helpless condition resolves and the mortal awakens. If they suffer any damage, the helpless condition resolves, and the mortal may then act on their normal initiative score and defend themselves normally. Victims of this power have no recollection of the events that occurred around them while comatose. The moments before being affected by Slow the Beating Heart are foggy and hard to recall, as if they were in a dream. From the mortal's perspective, they simply fell asleep inexplicably. The duration is 10 minutes. Now, there is something that I would like to point out, and that is my storyteller at the event that I got to play the Tremere in let me do this just on one person. They did let me, we did acknowledge the fact that there were you can use this in mass in the room that we were in, but they allowed me to just focus on one individual. I do believe that that is a storyteller player deal thing, because in the room, or in the book, as raw, rules as written, it kind of states that this is going to be a mass effect kind of set thing. And as a level 4, that's kind of understandable. That is a pretty high scary power. But I do like the idea of being able to just pinpoint who exactly I want this to affect. Level 5, Baal's Caress. You have discovered how to make your blood so offensive that it no longer needs to be attached to a blade to inflict its effects and damage your target. Baal's Caress. This is a Banu Hakim classic, and I love the fact that it did make its way into Blood Sorcery. The cost is free when enhancing Scorpion's Touch, or 1 rouse check per ranged attack. So I want you to understand that this is effectively an upgrade to Scorpion's Touch. The challenge pool is Dexterity plus Marksmanship versus Dexterity plus Athletics. And there is that prerequisite, Scorpion's Touch. You have to have Scorpion's Touch before you're allowed to buy this power, because it is technically an upgrade. The system states, when using Scorpion's Touch, you may choose to instead secrete a more lethal poison when coating weapons. This poison has all the effects of Scorpion's Touch, but also converts your melee normal damage to aggravated damage. In addition, you may also spit your poison at a target by making a rouse check and engaging them in a contested challenge. If successful, your target takes 1 point of aggravated damage, 2 points on a critical win, and suffers the effects of Scorpion's touch. The duration is 1 scene while enhancing Scorpion's touch, or not applicable when just using as a ranged attack for spitting. So in other words, this is Scorpion's touch, but your attack now deals aggravated melee damage or aggravated marksmanship damage, depending on how you are utilizing this power. It's a great, terrifying weapon. And I can understand that, like, this is a power that screams Banu Hakim to me, but you don't really see that many Banu Hakim assassins any longer. Also, most of them are trying to get higher court positions, which does make sense for the way that the story is going in Vampire the Masquerade. Level 5, Cauldron of Blood. Activation of this power causes the target's blood to boil over, causing them to fight immense pain and the hunger as their blood evaporates from their body. Cauldron of Blood. This is the big scary vampire power. And this one, this version of Cauldron of Blood has actually become much more terrifying. The cost is a single rouse check. The challenge pool is intelligence plus occult versus the stamina and resolve of the target. The system states, make 1 rouse check and spend your standard action obviously gesturing at your target character within 3 steps of you. If you succeed in a contested challenge against your target, you boil their blood. Vampires affected by Cauldron of Blood take 2 aggravated damage and gain 1 hunger. This power gains no additional benefits from a critical win. Mortals affected by Cauldron of Blood suffer 3 aggravated damage and gain the impaired condition. The duration is not applicable due to the fact that it is a single turn. It's a terrifying discipline. And I want to point something out. First off, in older editions, if you did this on a mortal, they died. Simple. There's no way around it. They just die. They keel over. You boiled them from the inside out. So it seems the discipline is less potent. However, it does cause 2 aggravated damage to a vampire, which is terrifying, considering how much health a standard character has. But the reason why I say that this discipline is still one of the most terrifying things, and one of the big reasons why you do not piss off somebody that you know might have blood sorcery, is the fact that you no longer have to touch the victim. They have to be within 3 steps of you, yes. But there's no fight of, you're not touching me. There is no way to get around that. You are, in fact, at their mercy. So, Cauldron of Blood's terrifying. That's all I have to say. Moving on from standard blood sorcery, we do have rituals, which, again, I will go over in a future video. We are going in order of the way that this book is written. So, keep an eye out for that in future installments of Level by Level. But blood sorcery, I don't know. I personally find blood sorcery to be so much more playable and user-friendly now that it's not spread around dozens of paths. And I understand that a lot of you really like the paths, and I also do to a point too. But there gets to a point where it's just too complex, where it also becomes slightly unfair for a standard vampire who's just like, oh, I get these 3 disciplines. And the Tremere's like, yes, I have 3 too, but one of mine branches off into dozens of different paths that I can do that are all hell-bent on making other characters miserable. There are responsible Tremere players out there. I'm not saying that there's not. And Tremere are not the only ones who get blood sorcery. There are other ways of going about it. But I do find that with something with that much leeway, something with that much possibility, the fact that the standard rules to how they're run typically, at least from my experience, are not followed. There's too much room for error. And the way that they've honed things down to these specific ways, now that blood sorcery is a discipline again, it's even described in the Book of Nod of Cain learning the disciplines. The path of blood was the source of all other paths. That was blood sorcery. And those paths I see in 5th edition are more how you use rituals, where I think the true benefit of blood sorcery really, really shines. That being said, I hope everyone highly enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making it. And with all that, blood sorcery is just a fun discipline. And I cannot wait to get to the next discipline. So we've just covered a discipline in level by level, and this is everything that is found in Laws of the Night. So as other books come out, those disciplines will be found in the other playlists for those other books. But I do want to remind you that the reason why we are doing this is a quick check reference. If you need to find something or have somebody else basically speaking to help you grasp what they're talking about with these powers, because it can be a lot of information. Keep in mind that there are time codes in the description of this video so that you can get to the specific information that you need for the individual discipline. I am Voivode Maquette. This is Our World of Darkness, and thank you for joining me into this deep dive, level by level look in a Mind's Eye Theater Vampire the Masquerade Laws of the Night discipline. Good evening.